welcome to the Quarantimes. My name is Reema Gupta and I'll be your host. With me today, I have Dr. Anjum Babukhan, who is an award-winning educator, empowering trainer, author, whose passion for lifelong learning and spiritual growth propels her to empower educators, parents, lifelong learners to develop their spectrum of human potential. Welcome, Anjum, to the show.
Thank you, Reema. Thank you so much for having me.
Anjum, it's a pleasure. I have been a big fan of Glendale Academy. I have interacted a lot with the students and always amazed at their potential. So congratulations for setting up such a wonderful academy in Hyderabad.
Thank you for saying that. We're all about unleashing the spectrum of multiple intelligence across the human potential. So I'm so happy that you've seen that in our kids.
So Anjum, as you know, we are living in unprecedented times. Coronavirus has overtaken our life, and it's not just a public health crisis, but an economic and humanitarian crisis. In a country like India, where the government is definitely doing a lot, but given our population, the private sector needs to join forces with the government to ensure that we minimize the impact, especially on people from lower socioeconomic strata. I've heard that your school is doing some wonderful initiatives. Could you please talk a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure, Reema. I think, unfortunately, the poor have actually been hit the hardest. I think we're all very lucky to be comfortable within our homes. When we realize that, we have an empty kitchen, we have all the facilities, we got some special permission to start kind of providing cooked meals to some of the localities around the school that have a lot of laborers or daily wage earners. So we're providing about 4,000 meals a day. So they start early in the morning, 7 a.m. I think the first batch goes out about 10:30, 500 packets till about 2:30. Totaling about 4,000, and then we close the kitchen then by afternoon. So our the school food is transported in the school food delivery vans, and aside from that, what we've also done is that we've opened up our +2 classes, 11th, for all students. So the students who have enrolled in, say, CBSE schools from a lower socioeconomic strata, who would be kind of missing out so that they don't get behind in the portion, they can actually log into our online classes. And maybe their schools don't have the facilities, for the online. So we've kind of made that available to students who may not have access otherwise as well.
It's always heartening for me when you can use, assets that are already there and make a larger impact. I think phenomenal. I hope other schools also will follow your lead. How have you been able to tell people that this is a forum that's available to them?
We've kind of advertised it on social media. So if anybody would want to join, they can just contact the school and then get logged in and things like that.
Sure. Oh, fantastic. So, following up on this, definitely, like we talked about, the schools are shut and the pandemic is presenting a big challenge to the education sector.
I actually agree, Reema. I feel school is not shut. School is open full time for us. It's just that the building is shut right now.
Thank you. Good point. I totally agree. Actually, my daughter, I see her logged on to the computer all the times, and we were joking with parents that suddenly the kids are busier than us because their school is uninterrupted. So hats off. Yes, you guys are doing a wonderful job keeping the school open. So from the stakeholder viewpoint, Anjum, what has been the impact of lockdown on your students and your teachers?
Well, I mean, when we look at stakeholders of a school, I mean, they are the parents, the students, the teachers, and, our leadership team. School management is now in this new situation trying to optimize how we can take into consideration all the stakeholder concerns. So when we look at the leadership team that we work very directly with, we're looking at about how we can now offer a new type of education or shifting of an education online or say distance learning. So like with younger children, we've seen that distance learning is a little bit more easier. And for the older children, you're on the online format. And then we've also talked about not only academics, but how do we integrate the co-curricular activities into it as well. Simultaneously, because the school year is coming to an end, we're doing our academic planning. We're planning our calendar for the upcoming academic year, basically virtually, with the teachers as well. As far as parents are concerned, as stakeholders, they obviously don't want learning to stop for their children, right? And they want them to be engaged because it's not summer yet. And then students, I think I feel for them. I feel that social interaction is such an important part of their experience of childhood, and not having that, not being able to see their friends. I think that's the biggest probably drawback. I mean, I've always lectured in programs to parents and teachers that, we're living in the information age. You don't send children to school for information. Information is available, at your fingertips. But you're sending your children to school for those experiences, that you get to experience through the five senses. And I feel bad the kids, with this situation, they're missing out on that. But we're trying to make it up, like I said, with our co-curricular activities, little challenges that we're posting for them. For the teachers, especially probably if they're like Generation X, I think this has been a great opportunity for them to sort of accelerate the way that they teach. I think everybody has been using PowerPoint presentations and things like that, but now even more, you're using some technology support and resources. And of course, as a school, we're providing a system, we're providing a schedule in which all of that can be carried out.
Sure. So Anjum, how are students and teachers adapting to this new way of learning and teaching?
I think very few schools were in a position as Glendale to go online immediately when the lockdown occurred. We were very lucky. But even when we started, I think we're innovating and we're tweaking things as we move forward, as probably a lot of schools are. And some of the challenges in running a school or running an online school, I think it's a little bit similar to a physical school. We still have to worry about attendance. We have to worry about punctuality and regularity of the students. We still have to figure out how we're going to assess whether learning has taken place. And similar to, kind of the little naughtiness that might happen when the teacher is out of the classroom.
Sure.
Now it's kind of shifted to before the teacher gets online or when the teacher goes offline and the kids are still there. What they kind of say to each other in that chat. So that's kind of, I was just thinking it's trying to handle classroom management in a virtual environment. But I think the most important thing that schools have to worry about is the learning efficiency. Then aside from that, there might be some technical issues that we would face with maybe power, connectivity. Sometimes the sound is not clear or the mic is not working properly. So these are all things that can kind of happen to anyone. It can happen to the teacher, it can happen to the students, that may impair the learning process. Teachers are also kind of all of a sudden very, very visible to the parents and kind of under their scrutiny as well. So teachers have to get used to that. Some homes may not have enough systems or laptops to utilize if the parents are also working from home, and there might be limited devices. The teacher has to figure out how is she going to help those children who didn't have a device or who had a poor connectivity. How does she help that child catch up? So I think we're navigating classroom management in a whole new way in this virtual environment. And it's important, how are we going to monitor whether students are focusing or not? And are they understanding? If a student has not focused, has not gotten the explanation, and if a teacher has to kind of repeat herself, maybe the other kids are going to get a little bit bored, or then they're going to lose focus. What about kids who join late online, or they leave early while the class is still going on? We've also found in the beginning, some of them were selectively attending the classes that they like or the teachers that they like. So how do you ensure that everybody is there? What do you do if if a student, sorry, is lacking a little bit of seriousness, or maybe there's poor attendance in the first period? Some kids want to keep their camera off, but then how do you monitor them if their camera is off? So these are all kind of new classroom management issues in the virtual world that we have to navigate. And I think all schools are probably gonna, maybe share, learn from each other, devise what is, like how you have code of conduct, online etiquettes or online code of conduct and things like that. So this is gonna all be something that we're gonna figure out. But I think we've come a long way in 3 weeks. I think it's amazing how far we've come in 3 weeks, and I think that we're very quick to adapt, and I think that's the key.
No, I totally agree, actually. So I come from a college academia, and it has taken us years to adopt technology in college and universities. And it is phenomenal to see schools just took 3 weeks and they're online. I totally agree. The challenges that you have laid out is part of the journey. It's part of us learning, and probably tools will improve to help manage the classrooms better, to mark attendance, facial recognition. Some of these things, techniques will be built in. But I have to say, when I look at my experience with universities and what the schools have been able to adopt, hats off to you guys. But I think, what do you feel has been the impact, because they are not able to physically come to the premises, on the students and your teachers? But how are the teachers adapting? Were they trained to do this? Did you have to do something quickly to get them onto speed? Was the infrastructure there, or something you had to do to enable this?
So, Rima, we had already started Google Classrooms in our school, and they were already familiar a little bit, as technology, using technology as kind of a support, along with, um, personal training, right, within the school. So when we anticipated this lockdown, probably just beginning of March, when things started kind of getting worse. February, we were hearing about it, but we really didn't think that it would kind of come, but it came in so fast. So luckily, beginning of March, we gave them more training and equipped them with what they need to do if, the teaching had to move online, which we had to do that. Luckily, we had just finished our term exams, and the kids were off for a 1 week break, and it was like perfect time. As soon as classes started again, we were ready.
Sure. But is there some classes that you feel are more amenable to online, versus are there others that you feel you had to cut out of the curriculum? I mean, I remember you mentioning yoga classes, and that's phenomenal. You can really take yoga classes online.
Yes, so what we try to do is we have about 50 co-curricular staff. The sports coaches, the visual and performing arts, physical education teachers. So they've actually, I'm really impressed. I mean, I think technology was a little bit more of a struggle for them, but they've actually proved to do a great job. So sometimes, mindfulness little session, not maybe a full like period that you would have in school, but they'll start with that. They'll start off with certain asanas. The physical education teachers are doing posting little challenges, and then the coaches are also posting little like football dribbling within the home, kind of like those football exercises back and forth. And the kids are so excited to actually have their parents record them and then share it with the teacher.
Oh, that's
We've
fantastic.
had we've had music classes. We've had art challenge. Kids turning in their artwork. We've even had a mushaira in one of our classes. So things are still kind of going on, but we're navigating new waters. I think we're tweaking things as we're going on. Sometimes it's not like all there in the beginning, but very quickly, everybody is kind of catching up to what needs to be done.
That's great to hear. And I'm glad to hear also about this two-way engagement, right? So it's not just teachers delivering the lecture, but as you rightly said, parents are recording and the kids are recording their work and sending it back to the teachers. And I have to say hats off to Glendale and the education sector, because I've worked in corporate sector and I know how difficult it is when they're adopting a new technology, right? So it's great to see this phenomenal uptake on using technology and being so quickly. 1 week time is nothing to be able to switch from an offline to an online mode. So great job and kudos to your teachers for adopting it.
I think educators are also trying to figure out what is the right amount of online time. You know, I think too much online time, that can also be very draining. You have to be aware of, you know, a lot of electromagnetic radiation. How much do you really want to expose the children to? You know, so I've seen, you know, schools, you know, experimenting with different times, like maybe a bigger break or winding up early, you know, interspersing, you know, like what we're doing is we're interspersing the CCA in between the academic class. So there's just a little bit of a variety. So it's not just academic, because I don't know, I mean, I don't know if there's any studies done right now where we've been in this situation where how much time can children actually focus. And I'm hearing something like 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yes.
You know, so then we really kind of have to think that how do you work around that, you know, that attention span?
You know, as a woman and as a working professional, I'd love to get also your thoughts, because work from home has become the norm, and a lot of women are juggling now both responsibilities. How, and of course, as you rightly said, we have reduced house help, so there is a little bit of additional burden. How are you handling it? Also, are you hearing different things? Because again, one of the things you mentioned is the school is not closed, right? Your teachers are giving classes, they are online, they are working with students. So is there a level of anxiety? What are you hearing from your teachers? How are they managing this double duty? And could you share some tips that and activities, like you said, you are undertaking with children on just increasing the mental well-being, right? And being able to cope with multiple responsibilities.
Yeah. So let me share with you kind of things that we've done. We've been actually sharing regularly a lot of useful links for the parents, you know, with our emails. Even we've had like kind of a video created from our counselor that has gone out, you know, sharing little tips on what to do, how to handle, you know, the mental health issues. Our student counselors are also in touch with our students and our parents, and they can be, you know, contacted, emailed, and appointments can be set. We even reached out to our alumni, recent alumni, because I know that for young adults this is very disillusioning. You know, either they're, you know, not able to get a job, they just or graduated and the world just kind of stopped, or they're in the midst of their thing, and kind of reminded them of our school song and kind of brought back those little nostalgic memories, and that don't worry, this too shall pass and you'll be okay. And, you know, kind of, and so many of them actually wrote back to us saying that it was so nice and we really are missing that love and nurturing support that we used to get in our school. So that's a few things that we've done. Online resources that even, you know, places like Harvard or museums and libraries that have just kind of opened up all their resources for free. It's been amazing. And there's, I don't know, not even dozens, I would say even hundreds of things that actually people can access from the comfort of their home. I don't know if there's new time though for this, because the new normal is still quite busy. I've had teachers, you know, yes, you know, they're taking their online classes that, you know, my salad got burned because I was cooking, you know, in between during the lunch break while this is happening, you know. So, I mean, a few things like that are happening. Everyone's trying to get used to and acclimatized to this sort of new normal. You've got husbands home as well. Then you've got kids home. I think sometimes it's difficult if there's less devices at home. That becomes a little bit tricky as well. So we're navigating new territory here, and I think that it's okay if, you know, little, you know, misses happen here and there, but we learn from that, right? We learn from these little stumbling blocks as well.
No, I totally agree. My daughter, the only thing I say, what do you miss? And she says, I miss my friends and I miss seeing my teachers. So I think I agree with you that the sensory experience, the holistic experience is what the kids are missing. But otherwise, from a learning perspective, the learning is going on. They feel fully supported with the teachers and the tools from a learning and learning new concepts perspective. But I think social interaction, you cannot substitute that with technology, at least not yet. And I think the last question for you is, this lockdown definitely has accelerated the pace of change. Maybe some of these technology changes would have occurred anyway as the technology matures, right? We would have adopted them. I think you see in some universities, they have adopted this long distance degree programs where you don't need to come to a university, you can get the degrees. And I'm sure schools will probably think about similar kind of models, especially for new. The second thing is from an educational sector perspective.
So from an Earth perspective, can I start with? I think everyone is seeing and sensing that the Earth is just restoring itself. I think human activity has bombarded it in a very negative way. And when we kind of lock down all the humans, I mean, so many wonderful things are happening. They say that a lot of people are noticing more birds, animals. There have been dolphins reported off the coast. People are saying in the north they can see the Himalayas from a distance, which they weren't able to see before. So I think that we selfishly didn't realize how human beings have been dominating the planet and subjugating all the other inhabitants. So I hope that this is going to be a learning that within such a short time, the earth is kind of restoring itself. And then secondly, I think we're learning to get by with a lot less, becoming a little bit more minimalistic, realizing that we really don't need a whole lot to sustain ourselves. I think we're polishing up our life skills. I think in the West you already have it, but in India we've been a little spoiled because we have so much help that, just doing things your own self is not that bad. We can do it. Also, probably the families that are experiencing some financial difficulties, and I know a lot of people with businesses down, and maybe jobs at risk or whatever. I think you're also cutting down the extra expenses, financially as well. So excess frills that weren't really necessary, I think we're going to think about them in a different way. Did we need that? In another organization that I'm in, they talked about, that we've got a huge budget for learning and these learning events, but there's always, the hotel and the food and beverage and the whatever needs to go up in the event, and it's just so expensive. But at the end of the day, if you're still learning, did you really need all that? Thirdly, I think going inward. I think this has taught us to go inward. We're cutting out all the outside excesses. I think that were probably not even necessary: excessive socializing, events, this, that. I think we're learning to become more comfortable with ourselves, be comfortable within our homes, time with loved ones. I hear that sometimes it's a little difficult for some people because they're not used to spending so much time. But I think when you experience it, I think you will figure out what's going to work, and how you're going to share that space. I think that's also a great life skill. As far as the education sector is concerned, I think we're very lucky to be in a school that is catering to a certain socioeconomic strata. And I think all schools beyond a certain socioeconomic strata, whether you had used technology or not, I think this lockdown, you had to immerse yourself in kind of a self-learning crash course in order to harness technology, go online, do what you need to do to still be able to teach children. If not, if your school didn't have that, at least be able to shift to kind of a distance learning format, where students would be kind of given the resources and then they would have to kind of lead their own learning with, maybe some guidance. So this is definitely there, that all schools, I feel really bad for the ones who are at the bottom level of the socioeconomic strata, and I'm wondering what is it that they're going to be able to do. So we'll have to figure that out, and the ones who can guide them. Like I said, we're sharing our online platform with other 11th grade students. Maybe the privileged schools can actually start sharing that with maybe the not so uh, I guess schools that don't have access to technology. Another thing is probably in the education sector, we're going to explore the virtual learning space a lot more. We're going to need to learn on what actually will help us learn efficiently. I think at the end of the day, it's about what you actually learn, right? And Einstein said that knowledge is experience and everything else is just information. So information is there, but how we facilitate the experience of it in a virtual setting, that's going to be really key. And we need to kind of figure that out if we're going to be doing that a lot more. I think we're going to be we have to use the online platform for interaction and not just delivering of knowledge, a class. It can't be teacher centered because that won't work. But definitely we have got a lot of audiovisual tools that's going to make learning more effective. I think you're going to see a lot more assignments and a lot more assessments go online. You're probably going to see a lot less paperwork, maybe, hopefully. Maybe that'll be also good for the environment as well. I think those schools that are following Google Classroom, they already understand that you can use it for content delivery, for assignment turn-in, a very easy analysis of student participation, assessments, correction, quick feedback is there. These are all the plus points of a Google Classroom. Aside from that, in terms of interactions, I think that's the big key, right? We're really missing out on that social component in education. So you're going to see a lot more online mentoring, online learning at your own pace, kind of like these courses that you have. You mentioned also the distance learning classes. You're going to also see, look at how many people are using Zoom meetings, a lot more online collaborative work. Sometimes you think that, well, why do we waste so much time traveling here to there to have a meeting when you can have that meeting virtually? I think we're looking at a longer time for the lockdown, so we're going to explore this a little bit more. I was recently a part of this hackathon, and it was really interesting. It was with college students, and they were trying to figure out ways, it was kind of an entrepreneurial thing, on how they can create platform for colleges to do this. So that kind of gave me the idea that I think we're going to see a lot more online competitions that children can participate in. I think the youngsters are already very kind of status conscious online. You know, they want to know how their status is. So I think we're going to see more creativity there from the youngsters. I think, like I mentioned, that challenge, you know, like you had the ice bucket challenge or whatever, you're going to probably see a lot more of these challenges or something similar to that probably go up. You're going to see a lot more webinars be available, debates, discussions online. I think for teachers, especially the ones who are a little bit more older, you really see them actually getting more tech savvy. And I think using much more multimedia. We have recently shifted, not shifted, but we were supplementing our teacher training with some e-modules just last year. And now I think we're going to do that a lot more. So instead of having a physical workshop, you can do a lot of online learning modules and continually sort of offer that professional development. In person, I used to talk in my talks with parents and educators. I used to mention things with technology like virtual reality, augmented reality, and there's a lot of people who are marketing that. And I think we already have that available. It's just that we have to access it. Like Google Cardboard launched its Pioneer expedition, and you can basically take a, you know, a cell phone, put it in this cardboard visor and take a virtual field trip to the microcosm or the macrocosm of the universe anywhere you want. So you'll be going on virtual field trips, perhaps.
Yeah, so I totally agree. I think technology is enabling a lot of things. There was another thing with Google where they have a hologram of an animal that appears in your living room, literally, right? Like you could choose your favorite animal and it appears. So yes, augmented reality and virtual reality is here. I think we'll be incorporating it a lot more also from a learning perspective. And I'm so happy to hear that, you know, you're taking this opportunity to even look at teacher training and different stakeholder perspective, right? And saying how can it add benefit. But at the same time, as you rightly said, it cannot replace the actual experience. So I think we should not think about it as a replacement, but an augmentation. I sincerely hope we don't go back to our old ways. It's not like the lockdown is over, floodgates open, and we are right back to where we started. We don't wake up from a coma, but we wake up from a conscious thinking and saying,
Yep.
how do we improve our way of living? So I think phenomenal thoughts that you've shared. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Rima.